Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome to the review of the action thriller drama One Cup of Chocolate. This film is written, produced, and directed by RZA of the Wu-Tang Clan. And one spoon of chocolate, I was about to say cup, but one spoon of chocolate is telling the story of an ex-military convict who leaves for a small town where he ends up finding love in more trouble than he can handle. This film stars Shameik Moore, who you may know probably maybe not by face so much, but you know his voice as the voice of Miles Morales, aka Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse animated films. It also stars Paris Jackson, who is the daughter of Michael Jackson. And oddly enough, she has a film that's coming out a week after her father's biopic is dropped in theaters, making stupid money. It also stars Blair Underwood in this film, and this film is executive produced by the great Quentin Tarantino. And so you can expect some craziness in this film. I honestly didn't know what to expect from One Spoon of Chocolate. I didn't know where this movie was heading. Didn't really see much promotional material leading up to this film, but you know, I figured it was going to be a typical RZA movie. RZA, he gave us the man with the iron fist and Cutthroat City, and so I expected a kind of strange movie, and this is probably RZA's most grounded movie, and I say that with heavy air quotes as grounded, but this feels like his most disciplined film, because the film doesn't rely on action, even though it has action moments throughout, and it doesn't rely on crazy out of touch characters. This movie really does feel like a grounded story, a story that sadly enough is happening. It's not a far-fetched story that is taking place in One Spoon of Chocolate. But the synopsis doesn't do it any justice. Just to give you a little heads up on the film deals with some heavy, and I mean heavy, racial undertones. This ex-military convict who is played by Shameik Moore, he is released from jail, from prison, decides to go live with family members in Ohio and this small town. And the small town is probably one of the most racist towns I have ever seen, and full of corruption. And he's caught up in this situation between white supremacy and the black community there. And I really wasn't expecting it, especially at the heaviness that we got it. But hey, it was kind of interesting to feast on. It was an interesting screening for me, because I got the privilege, if you want to call it that. I had the privilege of being the only black man, and I looked around. I was the only black man in that screening. And these were older Caucasian folk that was in there with me. And so this movie, this movie went to places that were so dark, and I mean dark from a Caucasian standpoint, like the scummest of the scum. And these white folks had to sit there, and I could feel the eyes. It was a dark theater, of course, but I could feel the eyes without me taking my eyes off the screen of people looking at me to see my reaction to a lot of the N-word. I mean, it was some hard ERs thrown around in this film. from white folks, and boy, they dropped boy more than I think I was more offended by the boy than I was by the ER. And that's saying something. That's how hard they were dropping it. And it was super offensive. It's super offensive. But I knew where this story was going. You know, I knew that they were going to get their comeuppance. So it really didn't bother me to the point where I was ready to walk out. You know, it isn't like your typical Quentin Tarantino film, which he directs and writes, where they drop him and he just does it just to do it. But it was done in this film just to showcase how racist these people are. And it got the point across in folds. So I get it. I get it. But it was an interesting screening. I will say, walking out of it, and I'm gonna get back to the review, but walking out of it was the most uncomfortable experience ever. And I'm not talking for me. I'm talking for them. Nobody wanted to look me in the eye. Nobody wanted to walk. When I started to walk out, everybody just stopped and let me walk out first. I'm telling you, it was that type of movie. But needless to say, we get back to the review here. But our main character was swept up in this situation in Ohio, where he ended up losing some family members. We got illegal organ transplants or extractions from black people going on here. It went deep. It went far out of the realm of what you would think is reality, but it's not too far-fetched from reality. If you really do some research and Googling and whatnot, you can find out that this stuff is happening. You know, this is real. And I admire RZA for taking a big swing with this. But like I said, the biggest takeaway I had from this movie was the direction by RZA. I mean, the movie was really, really good for 98% of it. 98% of this movie was great. I was shocked. I'm sitting there like, man, RZA is in his bag in this movie. The performances were great. Shameik Moore, this is, I think, his third collaboration with RZA. He was in Cutthroat City. He also played one of the Wu-Tang members on that TV show that was on one of those streaming platforms. I can't even remember, Hulu or something. I can't remember where it was, but he was on that as well. So he has a familiarity with RZA, and RZA has a familiarity with him. And so you could tell that they have a really good working relationship. And he looked great in this movie. He was really, really good carrying this movie. Now, aside from him and Blair Underwood, who is the one who added gravitas to this movie, probably the biggest name in this film, and that's saying something when you got Blair Underwood as your big star. Well, he ain't the star, but the biggest name on the marquee. But he did great. Everybody else, God bless them. You know, I really, I can really see the effort there. Now, all the white people in this movie, there isn't a redeemable white person in here other than Paris Jackson. And I know what everybody's going to say. Well, she's Michael Jackson's daughter, but you look at her. I don't see any black in that girl, but that's neither here nor there. She's her dad's child, regardless, but she's the only white character in this movie. And she's portrayed as a white girl in this movie, pure white. That is well, not redeemable. She's the only good white person in the movie. All the other white people are evil, which I'm not knocking the movie for that, but it's just funny. It was just funny to me to see the tables turn to that matter. And well, in that town, because before we get to that town, we do see a couple of good white people. Before we enter this small Ohio town, and so I'll take that back. But yeah, once you get to the town, yeah, bruh. Yeah, bruh. Nobody is good. Um, the only other actor or performance that I would give a good to would be the villain, Jimmy, the actor who I haven't seen in anything before. And he gave a good performance. As I mean, he was a villain. That was a villain to contest with. But everybody else not so much, or should I say, inconsistent. Everybody had like a moment to shine in a scene or two, but it just didn't flow. It wasn't a just good performance throughout the film. They'll show up for this particular scene, and then you see them in a couple of scenes later, and the acting is spotty, and then they'll probably give you another good line reading or whatever. For instance, Paris Jackson. Paris Jackson can't act, and well, she couldn't act in this movie. I've seen her on, oh, what was that show? It was on Prime Video. And she was I think it was Swarm, the show Swarm. And she had a role in that. She was great. She was really, really good in that. And so I don't know what happened here. The character was kind of underwritten, I think. So I'm not gonna put all the blame on her per se. But as far as the story is concerned, the story was great. I think the story was really good. It got the point across, and it really told a poignant story that I hope, especially the audience that I saw this with, I hope that they received that message. It's a really good story that was told here. And so, once again, big ups to RZA there. Where the movie lost me was literally the last shot of this movie. You ever watch a movie and it's going really, really good, and you're starting to feel how the story is going to play out? You get that little nudge on your shoulder, that little tap on your shoulder, and it's like, well, I don't know if this is going to end well. How are they going to land this plane? And that's how I felt watching One Spoon of Chocolate. As soon as the third act was kicking off, and the main action sequence when we get this revenge story going on, and I will say I do appreciate the fact that our lead character, even though he's in the military, they set him up as being just a beast. In the military, he has a Purple Heart and all this other stuff, and you see him train throughout the movie and this, that, and the third. So you're thinking once he gets his mind made up to take revenge on these white supremacists, that he's going to be the Black John Wick. I appreciate the movie for not doing that. I appreciate this film for making our lead character actually take punches, get kicked, get beat up a little bit, to the point where you're like, is he going to actually make it out of this? It was that type of beating he was getting, but he was dishing just as much. So I like that about it. I was sitting up in my chair. I was all for that. John Wick is John Wick, but I want to see my character, the protagonist in the film, actually face some adversity to make me question, is he going to complete the task alive? Is he going to get out of this situation alive and, get me really entrenched in this story, in this character? That's what I enjoy. That's what I enjoyed about Die Hard way back in the day. You didn't know if John McClane was going to make it out that building because all the cards were stacked against him. And it's pretty much the same thing here. Not to compare it to Die Hard because it's nowhere near that. But I said all that to say that I like that element of it. But even with that, I was still like, I don't think this is going to stick the landing. I just didn't feel like it was going to stick the landing. And sure enough, it didn't. The movie just ended. The movie, I mean, literally, it just stopped. I'm like, is this the final cut, or it's is there a scene after? It could have been maybe there's a post credit scene or a mid credit scene. I don't know. I left. I couldn't. I wasn't going to stick around. But it just stopped. Look, I'm all for an how you say it, an ambiguous ending to leave you guessing, to leave you questioning. That's good. That causes healthy debate, and or what did you think happened? Did you think this happened? Did you think that's fun to have with somebody you go to see the film with? In this case, not so much. This case, you're like, what happened? Everybody collectively in the theater, and remember who I was sitting in there with. Everybody was like, "Is that it?" It was like everybody in unison. Is that it? I'm like, this is crazy, because it was so good. The movie was so good. I'm just confused. I'm confused. I don't know what to think. But all I can judge off of what I did see, I'm not even going to wonder what happened at the end. But as far as the movie is concerned, the movie was good. The movie was really, really good. Completely unexpected. Wasn't expecting much at all, because I didn't even know what the movie was truly all about going in. And what I got, I did enjoy. The pacing was great. The direction was great. The story was pretty good. The acting was decent. I was a little hard on the actors, but it was decent. They did what they were supposed to do and got up out of there. But the main star, Shameik Moore, loved him in this role. Loved to see him in live action, but I still want to hear him voice Miles Morales. I think that's his niche. But overall, One Spoon of Chocolate gets a letter grade of a C plus. Yeah, it was good. It was slightly above average. It's one of these movies that if you check it out, because I don't know if this film will get a wide release, but if it does, even if it don't, but if it pop up in a theater near you, go check it out. It is worth a watch. I think it was fun. It was fun. It was exciting. It was deep, and it was dark. And so scrap in and enjoy One Spoon of Chocolate. But I would like to know, do you plan to check it out? Do you know anything about this movie? Have you even heard about One Spoon of Chocolate? If you haven't, I don't blame you, because I didn't know anything about it, but I was pleasantly surprised. You can email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of RZA's One Spoon of Chocolate. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.